when you see personal injury lawyers advertised, you're constantly seeing them out there with, we handle traumatic brain injury cases. And I just too often, I don't know, in my opinion, the message is delivered without empathy. But the reason that traumatic brain injury cases are so quote unquote valuable, and I hate putting it in those terms, is because what you're dealing with is a lifetime of care that is needed after the accident, right? So you have the client recovers money for the pain and suffering they had from that accident, but then they also need a lifetime of care. And so what you do is you consult with economists and doctors. They put together a plan that says this person is going to need this type of care over the remainder of their life. And the defendant has to pay for that. And that's why the value of those cases increases so dramatically. Our two biggest cases both involved large commercial vehicles. One case settled for $10 million, the other one settled for 15. And in both cases, you had large commercial vehicles that ran over unsuspecting people. One was in the context of a delivery driver, and the other was the context of a truck driver that was in a truck yard, and one of the other drivers wasn't paying attention. Horrific accidents. And these people suffered tremendously because of it. But one of the things to keep in mind with these bigger cases, the two variables or the two facts that will determine if a case is very large will be, one, were the injuries significant? And then two, is there insurance? These particular cases involved two very large multinational companies with very large insurance policies, so there was money to go after. Another harsh truth about the law that people don't fully recognize, and it goes back to the sue me for what sort of meme that you see out there, is if you get into an accident with somebody and that person was horribly at fault, if that person doesn't have much, there's nothing to recover. There's no avenue to recover against somebody who doesn't have something. So, an unfortunate truth of this business is, we'll see often somebody is in a horrible accident. The defendant is clearly at fault, but there's only $25,000 of insurance. Now, insurance is not where the analysis stops. You could go after them personally, but generally speaking, if that person doesn't have other assets, there's nothing to go after. When we think of big cases, and this is something that has really bothered me in the industry, is lawyers are quick to pound their chest and declare their victories. I recovered $10 million for so-and-so. I recovered $15 million for so-and-so, which are amazing awards. And those lawyers should be very proud of the results they got. But it always makes me uneasy. I think as an industry, we've somewhat forgotten that these are people. And maybe we have to be a little bit more empathetic about the way that we talk about these giant awards. Because if there's a giant award, it means that this person, in all likelihood, is suffering tremendously. And I want to give you an interesting fact about the law, and it's a nuance that a lot of people don't realize. And it comes down to what somebody can recover if they died versus what they can recover if they survived but had a significant amount of pain and suffering. And here's a harsh truth about the law. If a single person with no dependents dies instantaneously in an accident caused by somebody else's negligence, their case is worth very, very little. It's unfortunate, right? But there's no mechanism to recover for somebody who doesn't have any dependents versus somebody who now is in an accident and they survive for some period of time between the accident and then dying. That pain and suffering in that case increases the amount of that case significantly because now the deceased person actually has a cause of action for that pain and suffering, as does their dependents for what they lost by virtue of this accident. But my point is this, is that if you have a large case and you hear these massive verdicts, it's likely because somebody has suffered tremendously. And it's just important to me that we don't forget that.